To understand when life first appeared on Earth, we must begin at the very birth of our planet, over 4.5 billion years ago, in a solar system still young and volatile, where dust and gas from a supernova collapse swirled into a disk, gradually clumping together under gravity to form planets, including our own Earth, which emerged as a fiery ball of molten rock. For millions of years, the surface of this newborn planet remained in turmoil, volcanoes erupting without pause, an atmosphere thick with methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and water vapor, while the young sun showered it with solar radiation, and the solar system hurled asteroids and comets its way in violent bombardment. And yet, through this chaos, something extraordinary began to take shape. Around 4 billion years ago, the Earth cooled enough for liquid water to condense, forming vast oceans that would become the cradle of life. Scientists once believed that life could not have emerged until hundreds of millions of years later, but ancient zircon crystals discovered in Western Australia suggest that oceans, and possibly the conditions necessary for life, were already present as early as 3 billion years ago. By 1 billion years ago, we begin to see evidence, albeit faint and controversial, of life's earliest chemical fingerprints, carbon isotopes with ratios often associated with biological activity. These isotopes, trapped in ancient rocks, hint that primitive life might have been present just a few 100 million years after Earth's formation, possibly during what was once thought to be an uninhabitable Hadean. Life, in its most primitive form, would not have resembled anything we recognize today. It was not plant or animal, but a self-replicating molecule or system, likely based on RNA, that could catalyze chemical reactions and make copies of itself with occasional variations. Early evolution in action. Theories about the origin of life range from the primordial soup hypothesis, where organic molecules formed in Earth's shallow seas, energized by ultraviolet light or lightning, to the deep-sea hydrothermal vent theory, which proposes that life began in the mineral-rich, high-pressure environments around underwater volcanic vents, where gradients of temperature and chemistry might have powered the formation of complex molecules. Another hypothesis, panspermia, suggests that life's building blocks, or even life itself, could have arrived on Earth aboard comets or meteorites from elsewhere in the cosmos, a theory supported by the discovery of amino acids and organic compounds in space rocks. Whichever path it took, by around 3.8 to 4.0 billion years ago, the first forms of life may have appeared, microscopic, single-celled organisms called prokaryotes that lacked a nucleus and lived in extreme environments, known today as extremophiles. These simple life forms, ancestors to all known life, likely lived by chemosynthesis, deriving energy from chemical reactions involving sulfur or iron rather than sunlight. Over time, some evolved the ability to capture sunlight through photosynthesis, giving rise to cyanobacteria, organisms so successful they began to alter the planet itself. By 3.5 billion years ago, evidence for these cyanobacteria becomes fossilized in ancient rock formations called stromatolites, layered mounds built over generations by microbial colonies that trapped and bound sediment, forming structures that still exist in parts of the world today. These microbes released oxygen as a waste product of photosynthesis, slowly enriching the atmosphere with this reactive gas over hundreds of millions of years in what we now call the Great Oxidation Event, which occurred around 2.4 billion years ago. This dramatic shift in Earth's atmosphere caused massive extinctions among anaerobic organisms, but paved the way for more complex, aerobic life to evolve. Oxygen not only made new metabolic processes possible, but it also formed a protective ozone layer, shielding life from harmful UV radiation and allowing organisms to begin colonizing new environments, including shallow waters and, eventually, land. Meanwhile, Earth's interior dynamics, plate tectonics, volcanic activity, and the cycling of elements through the crust continued to shape the environment and drive evolutionary pressure. For over 1 billion years, life remained microscopic, a hidden world of bacterial kingdoms diversifying in silence beneath the waves. But this slow and steady process of evolution was building toward a turning point. Around 1.8 billion years ago, remarkable innovation occurred. the emergence of eukaryotic cells, more complex cells with nuclei and internal organelles, likely formed through a process called endosymbiosis, in which one cell engulfed another and, instead of digesting it, formed a mutually beneficial relationship. This marked the dawn of a new era in life's history, eventually giving rise to multicellular organisms, plants, fungi, and animals. Yet, throughout this vast prelude, the mystery of how non-living matter transitioned into living systems continues to challenge scientists. Modern biochemistry has revealed how simple molecules can spontaneously form lipid membranes, encapsulate genetic material, and create rudimentary metabolic pathways under the right conditions, lending support to laboratory experiments that have synthesized components of early life. The famous Miller-Urey experiment in 1953 demonstrated that amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, could be created from a mixture of water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen when exposed to electrical sparks simulating lightning. Since then, further studies have recreated protocells, ribozymes, and self-assembling structures in the lab, showing us that life's building blocks might arise more easily than once thought. Even so, we have yet to replicate the full transition from chemistry to biology. The first true living organism may have been a cooperative network of molecules in a vesicle, exchanging information and resources, evolving collectively rather than through a single lineage, a far cry from the DNA-based organisms we see today, but nonetheless the ancestor of every cell that has ever lived. It is also possible that many forms of protolife emerged simultaneously, competing for resources, with only the most efficient systems surviving the harsh conditions of the early Earth. The environment itself played a crucial role, with shifting climates, changing oceans, and cataclysmic impacts shaping the evolutionary landscape. One such event, the late heavy bombardment around 3.9 billion years ago, may have reset life's clock, or it may have delivered the very water and organic compounds needed for life to take hold. Intriguingly, modern extremophiles, microbes that thrive in boiling hot springs, acidic lakes, or deep underground, suggest that life may have always been more resilient and versatile than we imagined. These organisms resemble what early life may have been: adaptable, energy efficient, and capable of surviving where complex life cannot. Studying these extremophiles and simulating early Earth conditions continues to refine our understanding of life's origins and helps guide our search for life beyond Earth, on Mars, Europa, Enceladus, or even exoplanets in distant star systems. Ultimately, the question of when life first appeared on Earth is inseparable from the question of how life emerged at all. The earliest evidence is fragmented and indirect: graphite grains in ancient rocks, subtle isotope ratios, fossilized microbial mats. But collectively they tell a story that stretches nearly the entire length of Earth's existence. From the first spark of organic chemistry